During the height of World War II, when men fought not just against bullets, but against the extremes of nature, survival often depended on unorthodox methods. In frozen tundras, searing deserts and disease-ridden jungles, soldiers developed techniques that seemed almost impossible for their time, so effective that many were later restricted or quietly removed from field manuals. These were not weapons of war, but tools of endurance, born out of desperation and refined through experience. Today, most of these methods are buried in forgotten reports and classified archives, yet their principles still hold immense value for survivalists and preppers who understand that true survival depends on resourcefulness, not gear. The introduction to the forbidden tricks begins with the human struggle to control temperature. The first and perhaps most forbidden lesson of wartime survival wasn't about weaponry or tactics. It was about mastering temperature. Soldiers discovered ways to manipulate heat and cold with materials so basic that they bordered on absurd. During campaigns in North Africa and the Middle East, British and Australian troops learned to line their helmets with powdered charcoal and damp linen. The combination absorbed sweat and trapped evaporative coolness, effectively lowering body temperature by several degrees in the open desert. This charcoal headgear trick was banned from official manuals not because it was ineffective, but because it required dismantling gas masks and ration filters for the activated carbon. The command feared misuse would leave men vulnerable to chemical attack. Yet the principle remains brilliant for off-grid survival. Charcoal retains moisture and allows controlled evaporation, making it a natural air conditioner. Modern preppers can adapt the method using fine charcoal dust, sealed between two layers of cloth and worn beneath a hat or scarf during heat waves. Another extraordinary discovery came from the British 8th Army engineers, who experimented with silver-coated cloth originally intended for signal mirrors. When draped loosely above tents or trenches, the reflective surface deflected sunlight while allowing a thin layer of air to circulate beneath. Soldiers reported temperature drops of up to 15 degrees inside makeshift shelters, without any water or fans. This technology became the foundation for post-war emergency blankets, but the wartime version used thicker, woven fabric coated with aluminum dust and whale oil. It was eventually classified because it interfered with enemy aerial reconnaissance by reflecting light in unpredictable patterns. For modern use, reflective tarps, or even aluminum spray over canvas, can replicate the cooling layer effect. The key lies not in pressing the tarp tightly, but in allowing airflow beneath it, a small adjustment that transforms any shelter into a passive cooling system. In the unbearable North African campaigns, soldiers carried packets filled with rock salt soaked in alcohol or whale oil. When wrapped in cloth and applied to the wrists, neck or temples, these packs created a mild endothermic reaction as moisture evaporated, pulling heat away from the skin. The effect lasted for hours, providing relief from heat stroke and exhaustion. After several cases of soldiers overusing the packs and collapsing from electrolyte loss, the method was withdrawn. Yet the underlying chemistry remains sound. Modern survivalists can adapt this principle by using Epsom salts or hydrated magnesium sulfate mixed with alcohol gel in a sealed pouch. When used sparingly, it offers quick cooling in situations where water is limited and temperatures are punishing. Perhaps the most ingenious desert trick came from the Indian divisions operating under the British command. They carried a night cloth, a tightly woven cotton sheet coated with a fine layer of soot and animal fat. At night, when desert temperatures plunged, moisture condensed on the surface and was wrung out at dawn. A full sheet could yield nearly half a litre of drinkable water every morning. This technique was considered sensitive because of its potential for use in desert espionage missions, where soldiers could survive for days without visible supply lines. In modern practice, the same principle can be applied using blackened cloth, beeswax, and a smooth surface, such as plastic or treated canvas. By laying the cloth in open air at night and collecting early morning condensation, one can extract water even from arid conditions, a method tested by multiple modern survival trainers and proven effective. On the opposite extreme of the climate spectrum, troops stationed in Arctic and alpine regions relied on whale oil lamps improvised from ration tins. Unlike kerosene, whale oil burned slowly and emitted radiant heat without producing visible smoke. In a small snow shelter, one of these lamps could raise the temperature enough to prevent frostbite and even melt snow for drinking. When whale oil became scarce, substitutes were made using animal fat and wick fibres from uniform stitching or parachute cord. The reason the method was later discouraged was that many soldiers suffered carbon monoxide poisoning when using it in sealed snow bunkers. Still, the lesson stands. Slow-burning animal oils remain among the most efficient survival fuels. Today, fat-based survival candles or vegetable oil lamps can replicate the same steady heat, provided ventilation is ensured. These tricks were hidden not because they failed, but because they worked too well. By the end of the war, many of these improvised methods were omitted from training because they encouraged independence from central supply, a dangerous precedent in a command structure that depended on logistical control. But for survivalists, the opposite is true. Independence is the ultimate goal. Each of these forgotten techniques teaches a practical law of self-reliance, using simple materials to regulate temperature, harvest water, or sustain warmth with almost no tools. To apply them today requires not nostalgia, but respect for old-world ingenuity. Try setting up a reflective tarp tent using recycled aluminum packaging, or create a charcoal-lined bandana for heat management. Experiment safely with condensation cloths or oil lamps to understand how ancient chemistry and fieldcraft merged under the most extreme conditions of human endurance. The next time survival manuals focus on high-tech gadgets and solar-powered gear, remember that soldiers once survived hellish environments with little more than salt soot and scrap metal. These 10 banned survival tricks were never just military secrets. They were proof that knowledge and adaptability always outweigh equipment. If this dive into forgotten field wisdom taught you something new, share it with others who value real history and self-reliance, and don't forget to subscribe to Relic Logic for more untold stories of human ingenuity against impossible odds.